Not every crime leaves fingerprints. Some are born in code. Welcome to truecrime.exe, where fiction feels far too real.
Good evening. Tonight's episode is called 5 Dark Secrets Behind Haunting Disappearances. If you enjoy calm, ad-free, sleep-friendly true crime with no jump scares, please subscribe and tap like. It helps a lot. And as always, tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is where you are. I love seeing the map light up. This show is inspired by real dynamics and patterns seen in missing person investigations. Names, places, and sequences are fictionalized for storytelling and privacy. Headphones on, lights low. Story 1. Policy of Silence. It begins with a habit. Every Friday, just before 5, Evan telecalls his mother from the car. The route never changes. Office tower to expressway to the narrow street where row houses shoulder each other like old teammates. He keeps his voice light. He says he'll bring milk. He asks after her knees. He says he'll be there Sunday just like always. On this Friday, the call does not come. The next morning, a tow truck drags Evan's sedan from a municipal lot near the river. Inside the car, a phone without a SIM, a receipt for gas 2 towns over, and a neatly folded suit jacket with dry cleaner pins still clinging to the hem. No wallet, no Evan. Detectives knock on doors. They ask the same questions in different ways. When did you last see him? Did he seem upset? Any new friends? People answer politely, then slowly, then not at all. After 48 hours, detective in charge, Lena Ortiz, admits what the neighborhood already decided in whispers. This is not a weekend away. This is a vanishing. Evan is 39. He keeps spreadsheets for a living and receipts for a hobby. He smooths corners and fixes cabinet hinges without being asked. He is, by all accounts, an ordinary man with ordinary debts and an ordinary story. A divorce that did not turn rabid, a condo that never quite felt like home, a new will signed 6 weeks ago to be responsible. A life insurance policy increased 2 weeks after that, just in case. That phrase will return. Police begin with the car. The lot camera is finicky, sun-streaked, and perched like a bird that picked the wrong wire. Still, it sees enough. Evan parks badly, nose over the line. He steps out alone. He does not look back. He leaves the car unlocked. He disappears between 2 buildings as if he intended to come back. He does not. At his condo, the doorman remembers a small argument the night before. Evan and his younger sister Meredith outside the elevator, voices tight. Not a fight, something colder, practiced. "We're done talking about this," Meredith says, and slices the air with her hand. The doorman looks away. He's not paid to collect sentences. Detective Ortiz reads the old will and the new will. The new will names Meredith as executor and beneficiary. The old will splits assets between Meredith and their mother. The new life insurance policy names Meredith solely. "It was Evan's idea," Meredith says. "We've always been close. He said I was better with paperwork." "He had a mother," Ortiz says. "I know," Meredith replies evenly. "And she is not good with paperwork." When the life insurer receives a missing person report, it opens a file. It does not pay, not yet, not in a disappearance. For ordinary policies, a presumption of death requires years. Contestability clauses live in the fine print like tripwires. Even so, an email arrives, polite but urgent, asking what documentation would be required if that small word that makes the adjuster's skin twitch. The sender is Meredith, using a crisp signature block with a small, expensive logo. The family story hardens. Their father died early. Their mother never recovered. Evan raised Meredith by organizing chaos into tidy stacks. People confuse gratitude with gravity. They begin to orbit the thing that helps them. They rarely admit when the orbit becomes ownership. 3 items prick the detective's thumb. First, security cameras in Evan's hallway are unplugged the week he amends his will. The building's maintenance record shows a ticket opened by tenant request, no reason given. Second, Evan's passcode-protected password manager logs 2 failed attempts from a laptop registered to Meredith on a night she swears she was at a concert. Third, 2 cash withdrawals from Evan's account within minutes of each other at different branches. One branch camera shows a slim figure in a baseball cap. The teller remembers the money smelling faintly of cleaning solvent. A red herring arrives wearing a smirk. Rowan, Evan's ex-wife, drops off a storage key to the front desk 2 days before the vanishing. She posts a photo with a caption, "Fresh start." Her landlord confirms a sudden rent catch-up paid in cash. Ortiz looks, because detectives don't get to ignore easy stories. The storage unit holds nothing but books and a broken end table. The cash came from a tax refund Rowan can document down to the routing number. Easy stories often collapse when you ask for receipts. Ortiz asks Meredith to come in again. Why the will change, she asks, gentler now. Why the policy increase? It was his idea, Meredith repeats. He said he was taking a big client, lots of travel. He wanted things simple if something, happened. Did he say just in case? Yes, Meredith says. He actually said that phrase. Why? Because it's a phrase people use when they're trying to be casual about something that isn't, Ortiz replies. A local finds a wallet in a storm drain, half a mile from the lot. The ID belongs to Evan. The cash is gone. Detective Ortiz checks the bank app again. 2 withdrawals made with a PIN. No camera on the machine. A simple move. If you do not believe cameras are like flies, everywhere, but only useful when they land. A co-worker mentions a loan Evan made to Meredith last winter. She called it a bridge, the co-worker says. He called it a problem. A neighbor remembers a delivery Meredith took at Evan's door a week before he vanished. A medium box, light enough to carry with one arm. Kitchen stuff, probably, the neighbor shrugs. The delivery company says the box contained camera cables, the return address, a discount electronics warehouse, the credit card used, Meredith's, the acceptance signature, E. Teller. Evan signed for compatibility. Meredith bought the cables. The building maintenance ticket shows the unplugged date. The pixels delete themselves one day before he signs the new will. Ortiz visits Evan's mother. Not for a statement, for a scene. The mother does not sit as a symbol. She opens a drawer, pulls out a folder of her own. Phone bills, the clean pressed copy of the old will, a receipt for a birthday dinner where the 3 of them laugh like a truce. He told me, the mother says, eyes fierce, when he changed it. He said it wasn't permanent. He said, "Mom, it's simpler this way until I clean up something." He wouldn't tell me what the something was. "What did you say?" Ortiz asks. "I told him," the mother replies. "Simplicity is often a lie we tell a mess." She closes the folder, find my son. Then the blow that turns suspicion into weight. A search warrant yields Meredith's laptop logs. On the night of the second withdrawal, her device connects to Evan's email and downloads 2 PDFs, the new policy and its confirmation. A browser history shows 3 queries: life insurance missing person, how long to declare dead, and do insurers pay if no body? Her attorney says these queries prove nothing except poor late-night judgment. Ortiz agrees, on paper. In her chest, the detective hears something else. The echo of just in case. A week later, a jogger finds a soft bag in the reeds near a footpath. Inside a bundled jacket, Evans still bearing the dry cleaner pins, a prepaid phone with no SIM, and a small notebook with one line. M, you have to stop. No blood, no confession, no body, but a ledger of choices. Ortiz sits across from Meredith with the bag on the table between them. Did you plan it, she asks, or did you just follow the steps someone drew for you and call it a plan, because the word frightened you in your own mouth? Meredith stares at the bag as if it might answer for her. He was going to change it back, she says finally, meaning the will, the policy, the orbit. He said it wasn't fair. Was it? Ortiz asks. Silence rearranges the room. The case will take months. Motions will argue words like contestability, presumption, and beneficiary. If Evan never comes home, a court can declare a death after a set period. The insurer will wait. The mother will wait. The detective will wait. Meredith will learn what it means to be looked at like a puzzle the soul refuses to solve. In the meantime, Ortiz changes the label in her case file from missing adult to criminal investigation. Some disappearances are fog. Some are engineered weather. When money learns to wear the mask of love, vanishing becomes a business model. End of story 1. Which single detail made you first suspect a policy-driven disappearance? The unplugged cameras, the will change, the cash withdrawals, or the email to the insurer? Up next, Story 2, Uniforms and Blind Spots. Story 2, Uniforms and Blind Spots. At 1:12 a.m., the bell above the bar door rings once and then quits trying. Luca Moretti wipes the counter in loops. He has the hands of a man who can draw a perfect pint with his eyes closed. In a town this size, you don't need eyes. You need memory. Who drinks what? Who owes? Who hurts quietly and who makes noise because silence scares them? Luca leaned down to the regular at stool 3, a retired teacher who pretends not to need the free bowl of peanuts. "You're walking, Mrs. Doyle," he says. "I'm calling a ride." He tucks a coaster under a wobbly glass, whistles out of tune when the song changes, corrects a rookie bartender's pour with a tap of 2 fingers. A man word missing should be met at least once. The night obliges. Luca goes out back to break down cardboard and never comes back. The alley camera faces a wall. The owner swears it used to face the door. The last person to touch it wears a jacket with a patch and a name. That name is on the donor plaque inside City Hall. The patch belongs to a club that calls itself a charity and acts like a gate. The morning after Luca vanishes, the town does what towns do. It brings coffee to the people it expects to be brave. The police chief accepts the cups with both hands. He says the words he knows: resources, working leads, please be patient. The bar owner nods too fast. The owner's wife edits every sentence on her face before it leaves her mouth. A waitress tells a friend, who tells a cousin, who tells Detective Maya Keller, who does not work for the town. She works 3 counties over. She comes anyway, because she grew up here, and some places do not let you stop being theirs even when you leave. Maya's first move is always a map. She marks Luca's last steps. Table 4, bar sink, alley door. She draws a line between the alley camera and the streetlight it should have been married to. She notes the maintenance log for the camera says reposition for better coverage, signed by an officer who left for personal reasons a week later. Maya asks for the 911 call logs around closing time. There's a gap, 7 minutes, where the log shows system offline. 7 minutes is enough. For a fight, for a mistake, for a plan. The chief shrugs without moving his shoulders. Old system, he says. Glitches. She has heard that word draped over too many dates. Glitches are a kind of mercy for those who prefer coincidence to complicity. A bouncer at a club down the block recognizes Luca's jacket in a grainy still from a bank camera 2 blocks away. He leaves with 2 guys, the bouncer says. You can tell by the shoulders. Whose shoulders? Maya asks. You know, he says, and looks at the patch on the jacket of the man sweeping the sidewalk. A harmless chore, public, friendly. A bartender remembers Luca arguing with Ray Santini, the deputy mayor's nephew, about an unpaid tab. Not a fight, the bartender says, more like a promise that soured. Ray plays softball with 3 cops and golfs with a contractor who fixes city cameras. Maya asks for the original camera angle request. The form is missing. She files a formal demand and receives a photocopy with a coffee stain and the word misfiled written in pen. It feels like theatre performed for an audience that cannot leave. A whistleblower calls from a payphone. He whispers a name that makes the room feel smaller. Sergeant Cortez, with the right friends, the wrong expenses, and a taste for being owed. He said the bar camera was pointing at the wrong door, the whistleblower says. He said he'd fix it. He fixed it the way doors get fixed when someone wants to leave them ajar. Why tell me? Maya asks. Because my mother drinks there, he says, and hangs up. When a town closes ranks, it does not need orders. It needs old favors. People braid into each other's stories. If you tug one thread, 3 families fray. Maya knows this. She also knows the thing that opens closed rooms is light from the outside. She calls the state. She asks for an outside audit of 911 logs and evidence handling. The chief smiles without teeth. Help yourself, he says, as if the room belongs to him and always will. The audit team arrives with laptops and bad coffee. They print out a graph that looks like a skyline with 1 missing building. 7 minutes gone. The contractor who fixed the alley camera slips and says he installed a new bracket per the sergeant's instruction. Except the work order lists no sergeant. He changes instruction to suggestion. Words matter. So do slips. A body is found 6 miles out, in a drainage cut, where the town pretends winter stores its trash. It's been weeks. The water tries to erase. But water can only write over. It cannot delete. The jacket threads match Luca's. The dental records do the rest. An arrest always looks inevitable in the paper. It never feels that way in the room. Maya arrests Ray Santini first. Not the biggest fish, but the one who makes other fish swim crooked once the hook is in. Ray folds in hours. He says he didn't mean to kill Luca. He says it was supposed to be a lesson. Rough him up, scare him, make him stop talking about tabs and city contracts and things that wouldn't stay shrugged off. He says Sergeant Cortez told him where the cameras wouldn't see and when the logs would not tick. Cortez takes the news with the composure of a man who has practiced being surprised. He asks after Maya's father by his first name, remembers a Little League season that never happened. On his desk sits a neatly labeled tin of hard candies. He offers one and then pockets it when she declines. A good mask is maintained in small gestures. The chief resigns. The Patch Club holds a charity barbecue with live music and a banner that praises service and sacrifice. Maya goes home and sleeps for 12 minutes. Then she wakes up with a sentence she writes on a sticky note. Proximity is not the same as protection. In court, the defense says Ray is a fool being used to launder a town's hard feelings. The state says fools are dangerous when they believe their map is the only map. The state files charges against Cortez for evidence tampering, conspiracy, and obstruction. The contractor takes a deal, then takes a job in another county. The bar owner nails a photograph of Luca above the register. The bell rings when customers come in and rings again when they leave. And some nights people stand in the doorway longer than they need to because it feels like the bell should mark something other than entry and exit. Out back, the alley camera faces the door again. Moths batter themselves against the new floodlight as if light were a promise it knows how to keep. People ask why it took so long. They ask why uniforms didn't help. They ask how a camera can look at a wall, and everyone keeps pretending it's doing its job. The answers are not soothing. Power repeats itself until interrupted. Blind spots get painted the same color as the walls. On her desk, Maya keeps 2 notes. The first, 7 minutes is enough when everyone knows which 7. The second, remember Luca by his whistle, not his file. End of story 2. Was the 7-minute 911 log gap a true glitch, or a designed blind spot, and what convinced you? Up next, story 3, the cult next door. Story 3, the cult next door. Nora Vance does not post often. When she does, she posts trees. Light through leaves, water as a mirror. People call the images soothing and tag her with hearts. They do not see the captions slowly shrinking until they're just dates and times. When she tells friends she's going on a retreat, they shrug and say, enjoy. The flyer calls it a restorative weekend with integration circles and silent breakfast. The word cult arrives late to most sentences like this. It is a word we use when our stomach catches up to our eyes. The compound sits behind a wooden gate with a broken bell. The driveway curves like a throat. There are small buildings painted the same color as caution tape, but somehow gentler. People fit into the place like hands into warm water. There are pendants made from polished stones. They clink softly during hugs. Nora texts her sister from the gate, here. Then nothing. On Sunday night, the van returns without her. The group leader smiles carefully. She's staying on for an extension, he says. She asked us to tell you she needs more quiet. She didn't tell me that, the sister says. Phones are distracting, the leader replies, as if this answers every possible question. The sheriff shrugs. A Adults get to leave their lives if they choose, he says, and retreats are not prisons. He will drive out there if it makes the family feel better. He drives. A woman with a clipboard meets him at the gate. She says Nora is not on the property and she cannot comment on participants. "We honor privacy," she says, and the sheriff feels the oddness of being told his job is intrusion with a smile. A former participant messages Nora's sister from a burner account. "You won't find paper," she writes. "You'll find language. That's what they file." "What do you mean?" the sister asks. "You stop being a name," the woman writes. "You become a practice." They meet in a crowded cafe. The woman says the group calls itself The Horizon. It teaches that identity is a prison and freedom is surrender. It asks for offerings, then pledges, then reassignments, of time, of property, of relationships rebranded as attachments that must be cut. "How do they get people to stay?" the sister asks. "They make leaving look like harm," the woman says, stirring a cup she never drinks, "and staying look like love." Detectives get a warrant to search the compound. They find nothing with Nora's name. They find journals that belong to New Sun, Quiet River, Third Child, and Beloved Silence. They find luggage tags with the plastic sheathing peeled off. They find a locked shed that smells like citrus and wet wood. Inside, boxes of passports and IDs wrapped in cloth like relics. The names do not match the names in the journals. The leader says they are keeping the IDs safe during transition. The attorney he calls says the state has no right to interfere with spiritual practice. The attorney says this in a voice that has never needed to whisper. And yet, the notebooks tell stories without using names. A page of rules written in 3 hands. A sketch of the compound with small X marks where people integrate in solitary rooms, or where they reset without food. A schedule that includes night watch. And if you say security out loud, the leader laughs and says no, we watch the stars. Detective Keller, the same Maya from the town that tried to misplace 7 minutes, stands in the shed and reads what can be read. She finds one torn sheet tucked into a spine, ink pressed hard, as if the writer had to lean on the fact of the page to hold steady. Quiet River, day 19. The name is light at first, and then a lid. I can still see the trees through it. They tell us names are doors. I think mine was a window. I keep my old one folded in my mouth so they can't hear it. If the night watch asks what I am, I say still water. Still water can hold a stone without telling anyone it's there. Keller pockets the copy, not the page. You don't steal from a person even when a group has. A neighbor's trail cam, meant for deer, catches Nora behind the gate months earlier, hair tucked into a scarf, eyes pointed at the middle distance. Men stand on either side, attention shaped like threat. It is the only picture anyone can find of Nora since the van ride in. The state cannot charge a belief. It can charge actions. Many places now name coercive control in statute. Elsewhere, unlawful imprisonment is a door you unlock with proof that it locked from the outside. The Horizon offers both. The silent rooms have bolts you can only throw from the hall. The Night Watch logs include resists integration, move to reset. The pendants are receipt books. The pledges are too. When the second warrant opens more doors, people emerge buzzing with shock. Some move like deer onto a road. Some sit down and sleep as if professionals have commanded it. One woman walks straight to the boxes of IDs and pulls hers out and laughs in a way that makes people look away. "Do you know a woman named Nora Vance?" Keller asks the leader. The leader smiles like a saint in a painting, a performance of mercy. "We know many names," he says. "We prefer essences." "Did Nora leave?" Keller asks. The leader opens his hands. "Everyone leaves eventually," he says. Weeks become a season. Search teams walk the woods. They listen for something that doesn't know it is supposed to answer. They find burying sites for offerings, little bundles of things people used to call theirs. They find 3 shallow pits with bone. Animal, not human, the lab says gently. Nora's sister receives a letter with no return address. Inside, a pendant on a string, a small leaf sealed in wax, and a sentence. "The person you are looking for is not the person she is." It feels like a threat shaped like a fortune cookie. The state files charges for what it can name: fraud, theft, coercive control, unlawful confinement, and endangerment. The compound empties. The leader calls it persecution and moves 2 counties over. The vans arrive at a new gate. The pendants clink in a different breeze. Before he goes, Keller watches him count boxes in the back of a truck, lips moving, inventory as prayer. The robe was always a uniform. The clipboard, the real sacrament. Nora does not come home. The case sits in the drawer with other drawers inside it, labeled with words that look like hope until you have to say them in public. Long-term missing, no confirmed sightings, possible voluntary absence under duress. Nora's sister keeps the pendant on a hook by the door. She doesn't wear it. She cannot throw it away. Some objects get to be both evidence and shrine. That's the trick grief plays when truth and ritual don't agree on a calendar. End of story 3. Which detail proved the retreat crossed the line? The locked shed of IDs, the renaming journals, or the night watch schedule? Up next, story 4, Digital Doppelgänger. Story 4, Digital Doppelgänger. Jared Chen is 2 people. He won't admit that out loud, even to himself. But his browser knows, and his cloud knows, and his apartment does. The 2 desks, the 2 sets of monitors, the 2 phones labeled work and music, in a gesture at simplicity that fools no one. By day, he keeps servers humming. By night, he streams under a handle that stands almost at attention. At Quiet Mechanic, he plays ambient guitar in loops that make chat rooms hold their breath. He does not show his face. He wears a hoodie and lets the camera frame hands, strings, glowing dials. He reads the chat like weather, forecasting moods, steering away from storms. Someone in the chat wants more than the weather. At first it's small, a username that tips money, a message that says, "This saved me tonight." Jared hearts it, then scrolls on. The username returns on 3 more streams, and then every stream, sometimes before he goes live. Inland Lark says things you want to believe. Your work matters. You make the room better. You are safe here. The last part should not sound like a promise, but it does. Jared replies twice, and then stops, because the replies feel like heavy furniture being moved into a small room. He doesn't want to rearrange his life for this. He also doesn't want to leave the room. Then someone posts a clip of Jared's hands with his watch visible and a reflection in the chrome of a tuning peg that might be a face. A forum starts a thread to solve the reflection. People zoom in until pixels dissolve and speculate anyway. A second forum overlays the clip with a streetlight pattern they swear matches a street outside his building. A third forum posts his handle alongside an old work portfolio that lists a city he once lived in and a coffee shop where he left a sticker on a door. The hunt looks like a game. Hunters always say that. Jared locks down his accounts. He rotates passwords and enables keys. He says out loud to the empty room, "This is fine." Then he sees a photo of his street on a forum he never joined. The shadow of his car sits exactly where he left it. He unplugs a monitor and calls the landlord. "Anyone asking about me?" he asks. "Just the mail," the landlord says, puzzled. "Why?" "No reason," Jared says, because saying the reason out loud feels like giving it permission. The music phone buzzes at 2:11 a.m. A message from an unknown number. "I found you." He blocks the number and drops the phone onto the couch as if distance can defeat signal. The work phone buzzes next. "You shouldn't have blocked me." He powers both down and watches the screens go black like eyes closing reluctantly. A month earlier, Jared reported a SIM swap attempt to his carrier. Someone impersonated him using the last 4 digits of a social and a mailed address change form. The rep caught it. Jared changed nothing else, because nothing bad had happened yet. People anchor their preparation to the last failure they avoided. At 7:20 p.m., a doorbell camera across the hall sees Jared leave with a backpack and a guitar case. He does not return. His downstairs neighbor hears 2 people on the stairs at 1 a.m. and assumes it's the couple in 3B. The couple in 3B assumed it was Jared coming home late. Assumptions make a neighborhood comfortable until they are itemized and turned into evidence. Detectives find the music phone in the couch and the work phone on the desk, both powered down. They find a SIM tray tool on the floor. They find shipping boxes addressed to a quiet mechanic sent by fans, pedals, a loop station, a note that reads, "Play this at 2 a.m. so I know you're real." Detective Serena O'Malley maps Jared's devices. The work laptop connects to a VPN at 6 p.m. The music laptop goes on at 11 p.m. and off at 11:09. A Tor connection pings briefly from a neighbor's unsecured Wi-Fi. A rideshare account requests a car to a location near the river. The driver cancels after waiting 5 minutes. 5 minutes is not long. It is forever when you are the person certain someone is coming. The forums begin to mourn. They pin posts and ban speculation. A new thread opens on a site with looser rules. "We told him not to ignore us." The thread is deleted. Screenshots multiply like mold. O'Malley finds a folder on a hard drive labeled Mirrors. It holds alternate thumbnails and schedule notes for streams that never aired. It lists meetup spots and then crosses them out. It includes one name underlined twice, Ari. The landlord remembers a visitor with that name. Short hair, dark jacket, a habit of watching the stairwell before coming up. "Nice," the landlord says, or pretending well. She traces Ari through a support group for people untangling from parasocial knots. The group meets in a church basement. Folding chairs sound like apologies when they open. A woman with bitten nails tells a story about sending rent money to a streamer who never asked. A man says he once waited outside a venue after a meet and greet and called it fate when the person he followed took the same bus. The facilitator says, "Attachment is not an invoice." A chair remains empty with a handwritten name card. A-R-I. No one claims it. O'Malley posts a tip line. An inland lark calls with a distorted voice. He went with someone he trusted, the caller says. He thought it was me. It wasn't. What does that mean? O'Malley asks after the line goes dead. She hears her own voice and recognizes fear. Not for Jared exactly, but for the shape of the world that let a room become a trap. A delivery camera 4 blocks away catches Jared walking with someone whose face is turned just so. The person wears a hoodie like his. They carry nothing. They walk like 2 people who've agreed that the night owes them privacy. The bridge camera sees a car pull onto a maintenance shoulder at 1:12 a.m. The plate is smeared with mud. The car idles 13 minutes and pulls away. In Jared's drafts sits an unsent email. We're done for now. Please don't follow. The recipient field is empty. The sentence sits like a ship turned back at the harbour. The next day, an inland lark's account is deleted. A new account appears, at River Quiet. It posts a clip of guitar loops that sound like the space between 2 hands, deciding not to touch. Caption: if you know, you know. IP logs lead to a library, a public Wi-Fi, a coffee shop that closed 3 months ago but still broadcasts a faint 5th bar. The map fills with places where nobody can reasonably remember a face. O'Malley finally finds Ari's old handle in a private forum. A confession written months earlier. I thought if I loved him with enough logistics, he would notice me properly. I made calendars of his sleep. I'm done now. I think I'm done. The post ends with coordinates that turn out to be the park where the rideshare driver waited 5 minutes. Done is a word that needs witnesses. The case does not close. Some do. This one resists. Months later, a new stream appears. The hands are similar. The loops are right. The watch is missing. The chat says, welcome back. The profile says, a quiet mechanic too. O'Malley listens and can't decide if grief hears what it wants, or if someone is commandeering a life to keep a room full. Either way, a person can be used twice, once for the body they have, and once for the shadow they cast. Disappearing in the age of mirrors is a trick too many think they can perform without a practice partner. End of story 4. What was the real tipping point toward danger? The reflection hunt, the SIM swap attempt, or the I found you message? Up next, story 5, the corridor. Story 5, the corridor. Maya Rios drives like a person whose life is wider than her calendar. She works 2 jobs and counts hours out loud. Her car smells like coffee and sunscreen. If you treat the interstate like a river, she knows every bend. Her sister tells her to take the toll road, and she says the toll is time, and she doesn't have enough to give. On a Thursday in July, just before dusk, Maya texts, leaving now, 2 hours. The phone places her near mile marker 178. The next ping is silence. Her sedan is found at a scenic turnout with a view that looks like a postcard. The driver's door is open. The engine is off. The hazard lights are not on. Her purse sits on the passenger seat. Her keys are gone. The turnout has a camera, of course. It points at the trash cans. A second camera points at the overlook. Neither sees the parking area fully. A patrol checks the path and finds nothing. They mark the map with a small red circle and drive to the next call, because that is what calls require. Maya's mother calls everyone. Friends drive the route. They sail past signs like Meridian Creek and Vista Point and do not look at the water because the water feels like an answer you cannot argue out of existence once it decides to speak. Detective Amir Khalil prints the map in sections and tapes it on a wall. He marks other cases along the corridor. A cluster of vehicles found empty near exits. A set of phones last heard from beside rest areas. A handful of doorbell cameras catching headlights at night, then nothing. He draws threads between points and stands back. The map could be coincidence. It could be instruction. Truckers tell stories at a diner with coffee that knows how to wait. They talk about decoys on the shoulder, a car with the hood up that doesn't steam, a woman waving near a mile marker then gone when you circle back, a ribbon on a tree bright as a party that never happened, nothing you can arrest, everything you can note. Maya's car shows no struggle. A receipt in the console suggests a stop at a gas station 20 miles south. The camera there sees her laugh at something on her phone. The clerk says she seemed like someone with a reason to get where she was going. That is how clerks always describe people who don't look like trouble until they go missing. Khalil asks the highway authority for Plow-Cam archives from winter. Plows see different things. They are low to the ground and honest. In January, a plow passes the same turnout and catches a pickup parked at 2:03 a.m. with no snow on its hood, meaning it arrived after the snowfall. The pickup's rear bumper has a dent in the shape of a ladder strap. A similar truck appears on a way station camera, 2 interchanges east an hour later. The plate is muddy. The driver wears a cap and mask and moves like someone who knows cameras do not blink, but people do. A motel clerk off exit 181 remembers a woman checking in without luggage at 9:14 p.m. She looked scared, the clerk says. She looked like someone who could not afford to say the wrong sentence. The room phone shows 1 outbound local call placed and then hung up at 2 rings. The room's trash holds a napkin with writing pressed through from another page. Meet me at 187. The clerk can't say who wrote it. The motel doesn't keep copies of IDs because nobody buys a policy until something goes wrong. A delivery driver's dashcam captures 2 vehicles stopped on the shoulder at 1:78 around dusk. Maya's sedan and a dark SUV with a roof rack. The driver's commentary on the video says nothing about the cars, just the song on the radio. Sometimes evidence does not know it is evidence until someone else listens. Khalil pulls records of calls to highway assistance. 3 calls in 1 week report a stopped car near 178 with the hood up. Each call comes from a different prepaid number. Each call ends before a dispatcher can confirm the exact location. A supervisor says this happens sometimes. Helpful citizens with impatience. Or a pattern dressed as help. A retired trooper visits Khalil's pinboard. He taps 3 points with a knuckle. You're not hunting a person, he says. You're hunting a system. That's harder. Systems don't confess. The system looks like this when you hood it in statistics. Rest stops without attendance overnight. Turnouts with cameras facing scenic views. The long stretch between interchanges where the only light is the rhythmic summary of white dashes on asphalt. It looks like this when you take off the hood. People who know routes, motels that don't ask for last names, lots where cars nap in the dark, yards where vehicles get chopped and reborn with new plates and new purposes. Every piece legal until you add intent. After 3 months, A hunter finds a scarf snagged on low branches a quarter-mile off the turnout. The color matches one in Myers' photos. Forensic work on fabric feels like listening underwater. Fibers offer stories slowly. The lab says the scarf spent time in a car that wasn't Myers, and in a room that smelled like bleach and stale coffee. A motel room. Khalil returns to exit 181 and asks the clerk to check an old ledger abandoned in a back office. A page tears where a carbon copy once was. The imprint left behind says, Monsieur Rios. A small smiley face appears beside the letter M. The clerk does not remember drawing it. The clerk might not have. Memory does not hold still for rooms at 9:14 p.m. A tip lands from a driver who heard a story from a cousin who works at a brake shop that services fleet SUVs. The cousin says a man came in with a roof rack that whistled. He asked if anyone knew how to stop the sound. He complained the whistling drew attention on the highway at night. The cousin remembers the man's tattoo. A compass rose on the wrist, lines faded as if the points had been rubbed for luck. The brake shop has a camera. The camera keeps a tape. The tape shows a wrist paying cash. The tattoo looks exactly like the cousin says. The man's face appears for 3 frames when he checks the clock above the counter. 3 frames is enough if you know where to send them. The state database returns a name. Caleb Bryce, a contractor with a history of moving, a collection of small arrests that never turned heavy, a series of vehicles registered to LLCs that dissolved like rain puddles after sun. Bryce is questioned and smiles without being impolite. He says he drives at night because the roads are kind then. He says he hikes near mile markers because the birds are better there. He says he doesn't know Maya. He says he doesn't check into motels. He naps in his truck. On a shelf in his garage, 3 burned out emergency triangles, still sooty at the hinge. His alibi squirms. It does not die. The DA waits. The State Patrol ramps up presence along 178. Motels are trained to copy IDs. Attendants roam rest stops in pairs. The highway installs a camera that sees the parking area, not only the view. The new camera records a black SUV with a roof rack pulling into the turnout at dusk 3 weeks later. It idles. It leaves without stopping at the overlook. It returns 15 minutes later. A patrol car is waiting in shadow. The stop is polite. The questions are precise. The answers are not. In the cargo area, a tool bag, rope that smells like the hardware store, not dirt. A seat cover with fabric threads that match the scarf found in the woods. On Bryce's phone, 3 short calls to highway assistance in the past month from prepaid numbers, all near 178, all ending at 2 rings. The whistling rack is quiet now. A length of tape lies crumpled in the glove box. Bryce is arrested on unrelated warrants while the lab works. The charges that mattered arrive days later. The trial that follows is long and careful because long and careful is the only kind that holds. The trooper comes to court in his good hat and testifies about systems and confessions. The clerk from exit 181 brings the ledger imprint like a ghost of a signature. The plow operator nods at his own footage as if an weather. Ordinary, except when you study it. Khalil keeps Maya's name at the top of his board, even after the case changes shape. From missing person to a system interrupted. On the first cool evening of fall, Maya's mother walks to the overlook, while a new camera watches the parking lot instead of the horizon. She stands where the wind lifts hair from her forehead and says her daughter's name once, clear. She does not wait for an echo. Some returns belong only to keys hung on hooks by the door. End of story 5. Is this corridor crime mostly opportunistic or organized? And which clue broke the pattern for you? The Plow-Cam, the Motel Ledger Imprint, or the roof rack whistle? If you made it to the end, thank you for spending your time here. If you want more sleep-friendly, slow-burn true crime with no jump scares, please subscribe, like, and tell me where you're watching from and what time it is. It helps this channel reach the listeners it's meant for. Sleep safe.
Case closed. Archived in the synthetic vault. If you dare to return, the next file awaits. truecrime.exe. The line between fiction and fear.